it's almost like we go into the consciousness shifts, we go into that power, but it's much more than that. It's like a personal prayer, Raymond. It's almost like our intention goes to the spirit world to be used, to be the best that we can, but it's starting to go silent. It's knowing that the changes are happening, and it's that start of that energy building within us, and it's just giving ourselves time for that process to happen. So yes, we sit in the power. We might sit for a couple of minutes before a demonstration, not very long, because we don't want to be too passive, because mental mediumship, we have to be active, we have to be engaging, especially online. There's 50% more presentation. We have to be a bit more upbeat, we have to be a bit more animated. But again, the process before it is about that personal space where we go into and have time for these things to electrically, if that's a word, electrical structure to change within the consciousness, the frequency to change. So it's having that bit of silent time to work in our imagination, but it is like a prayer to the spirit world. But again, it is about heightening the mind. It's not just about going into the power. Everything about you is shifting. So again, preparation. And part of that preparation, 9 times out of 10, in fact, probably all the time, a little bit of personal information, is I like to go for a shower. And it's in that moment where I'm in the shower under the water, that's where my consciousness is starting to open. I can feel the presence of the spirit world building and that energy within inside me building. But there's certain telltale signs as well when it's happening, because I start to become a little bit erratic. Or I might start doing the penguin dance, as Denise would say.
I was going to mention the penguin dance.
No, I don't do the penguin dance. It is about getting yourself into that space, and it's allowing your consciousness, allowing the self to change with it as well.
We're doing a sitting in the power workshop, and what we do is we work through, we talk people through sitting in the power, because people do go very passive in sitting in the power, as we should. But we also see people sitting in the power before they demonstrate, and they go through what Phil talked about there, that passive state. We actually need to remain in the active state of being in the power in order to be active in that space with the spirit world. Because if we go too passive and go beyond the place, we're not going to mention it here, but we need to pay attention to where our brain waves are. We need to be in that space with the spirit world to be able to come in and blend with our consciousness. So we become, if Phil or I are working first, for instance, online, we tend to dem together. We're going to get a shock when we go out and do 90-minute dems on our own now after COVID.
Yourself, I'm looking forward to it.
But when Phil is working and I'm working next, on his last contact, I'm going into the power, but I'm not using the power because I need it all to work. So I'm in the power, but I'm not actually using it. So those of us that are there, we might think that we want to get our contact and start thinking about who it is. We're using power to do that. All we need to know is the spirit world are there. And then when we start, we can begin communicating. But it's just those few moments. We sit in the power every day to develop our mediumship, to check in with ourselves, to understand what our team needs. But as we do that, we just touch that place before we start working. Few moments, and then we're ready to go. When you're in a church or a centre, you have the audience, even if they're sending you negative stuff. You have the chairperson, you have the room, you have the building. When you're online, you only have your own energy. So sitting in the power, building your power, building that space, building your own battery supply, so that when you're online, that's all you've got. You've nothing else. So when your energy is depleted, people say the spirit world are tired, or they're pulling away, or the energy of the spirit world's diminished. It's not. It's the medium's energy that's diminished. So you need to practice sitting in the power, keeping it at that place in order to hold your own power, use your power, and then when you're done, you're done. So it is absolutely, you don't have anybody else, you only bring it, you only have what you bring. So we've seen people demonstrate online, and not talking about Mondays, we're talking about demonstrations of mediumships. And I tell you, it's like watching a wet rag. the energy level is like, bleh. There's nothing there, because the person that demonstrates in a church is trying to demonstrate online in the same way. It doesn't work. You have to be more animated. You have to engage your people. You have to, I mean, we've got phones, we've got rooms, we've got homes. In Zoom, you're fighting with a lot to keep the person's attention.
You have to really build your energy and power and really hold it and hold that communicator, because you've got so many different things you're dealing with, like Kerry said, but you've got time delays, you present your information, you're waiting for that person to be brought in. You've got to hold that communicator, so your power is very important. And please don't take this negative, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes we go to churches and that chairperson doesn't know how to chair, doesn't know how to give the medium energy, doesn't know what they're doing. Sometimes we have to say, okay, thank you very much for doing that. Well, let's carry on how it should be done, sort of thing. So again, and that's been not noted. There are some wonderful churches out there and wonderful chairpersons. I mean, a lot of the things we teach, what people just see as for mediumship, Kerry runs a church. We teach how to chair. We teach how to be that good facilitator. And there's a lot of things to it that people don't really realize. So again, if you've got a really good chairperson, Raymond, that life is really easy. I mean, some of the horror stories we could tell you where we've been working and the chairperson's got up to sort an argument out with their loved ones and answer the mobile phones and count the money and work out what they're doing on the laptop, and we just look and go, thank you very much for this. And we've got to really, and I'm staying in the UK with this, but you're quite right. If we go back to what you originally said, you've got to have your own power. Whether we're in a church, whether we're in a theatre, hotel, community centre, online, the medium needs to have their own power. They can't rely on an audience. They can't rely on a chairperson. So a good medium knows it's their energy, and a good medium knows as well when it's not working, when to pull down, when to stop, and everything. So again, it's the whole education of everything.
Good question.
Fantastic question.
Thank you.